Hey everyone, welcome to the vlog number 80, I think. Wow, I can't believe I've already done 80 of these, but at one a day, that number climbs rapidly. Uh, but yeah, thanks for catching this new episode. My hair's tied back today, which is weird. But today we're going to go back in the time machine back to the majestic year of 1967. We're going to go through my record collection for 1967, all the cool stuff I have from that year. I've done a previous video about 65 and 66. I'll talk about some of my favorite albums that came out that year, some recommendations for albums I think you should listen to for that year. But first I'm going to start with a couple of 45s I have. It's videos like this, by the way, the ones that I feel like are most self-indulgent, like I'm going to show everyone my record collection, that wind up at getting a decent amount of views, which is awesome. Thrilled. I have one Elvis single from 67, Fools Fall in Love, lesser song of his, with Indescribably Blue as the B-side. I don't believe that song ever charted. Maybe it charted, but not that high for sure. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. This one I just picked up and I'm so happy about. James Brown, Cold Sweat. This is one of those soul titles that has part 1 on side A and part 2 of the extended jam on the B side. I was so happy to pick this up. The weird thing about this is usually the King Records singles will have a blue label. I've never seen the King Red label before. I looked it up on Discogs and I wasn't able to figure out if the red label just means it's a later issuing, whether it's a Canadian thing, whether this is even a Canadian pressing. It doesn't say a country. I have no idea. Let me know in the comments if you know if the red label is just a different label, or if it means it's a second pressing, or if it means it's Canadian. Let me know in the comments if you know anything about that. And then my only 1967 Beatles single, although I have both of their Beatles albums in my collection. Spoiler alert. I have the Penny Lane Strawberry Fields Forever double A side. Was it a double A side or was Penny Lane the A side? Not sure. I wish I had the original picture sleeve that came with it, but I don't. So I've put it in a completely not even generation accurate capital sleeve. This is from 1967. This is an early 70s sleeve. I apologize. If I get another period appropriate capital sleeve, I'll put it in that. My 45s collection, I'm constantly switching sleeves around to try to get it as period accurate as possible. That one's not. Anyway, going into these albums, I have Linda Ronstadt's first LP ever. I should at some point do a video on Linda Ronstadt because I have a ton of her records. It's actually the first Stone Ponies album. In her early days, she was the lead singer of the Stone Ponies, which wrote original tunes. This is far from a first pressing. Originally, when the album came out, it was just called the Stone Ponies. And then in the 70s, after not only had Linda Ronstadt become successful, but also left Capitol Records, and now Capitol was really looking to reissue old material to make some more money off her, they reissued it as the Stone Ponies featuring Linda Ronstadt in the mid to late 70s, and that's what this one is. They also cut a couple of songs from the album, which is a travesty. Pickwick Records love to do that. This isn't Pickwick, this is a Capitol release. But Pickwick Records is a record label in the 70s that love to do that. They love to reissue classic albums with different album art and songs removed, and I absolutely hate it. But maybe someday I'll find an original Stone Ponies copy, but I'm thrilled to have that. Also from 67, Chuck Berry's Golden Hits. I know what you're thinking. Chuck Berry, wasn't he big in the 50s? This is a compilation issued by Mercury in 1967. Chuck Berry had switched to Mercury from Chess Records at this point. Chess Records owned the rights to all his music, so Mercury could issue new recordings by Chuck Berry, but not his original songs. To kind of circumvent this, they had Chuck Berry re-record some of his classics as close to the original as possible so that Mercury could distribute them. So these are not the original recordings, but new at the time, 1967 recordings by Chuck Berry. Not as good as having the original recordings, but it is a cool piece to have. Unfortunately, this is a shame, that's the only Chuck Berry LP I own right now. I think. Yeah, I have a single or two, but that's the only full album of his I have. Speaking of bands that it's a travesty that I only have one of their albums, The Byrds, and it's not even one of their studio records, it's just their 1967 greatest hits. Great group. I don't have enough stuff by them. Otis Redding, the best of Otis Redding. This did not come out in 1967, but 67 was the year he passed away, so that's as far as... So this retrospective is tunes from like 64 to 67, the big part of his career. It's a double LP, and it is just a great thing to sit down and listen to that album. Love it. Jimi Hendrix Experience. Are You Experienced? One of the most important albums of the year. Many people say that this album just blew open the sound and changed the world for the psychedelic better. Yeah, Hey Joe, when it came out, was apparently a huge deal. No one had heard anything like it. As you can tell by the barcode on the back, this is far from original. This is a new reissue that I bought at a London Drugs like 5 years ago. They've done their own custom label on this issuing. Some vinyl reissues like to do their own custom sleeves. Some of them are custom centering labels. Some of them like to mimic the original. I like it when they mimic the original, but now I'm just nitpicking. I have so many Supremes albums. Supremes sing Holland Dozier Holland. Holland Dozier Holland was their songwriting team, as well as production team, one of the greatest songwriting teams of all time. They also wrote all the stuff for the Four Tops and Martha and the Vandellas and a few other Motown groups. Great album, especially You Keep Me Hanging On, maybe my favorite Motown tune of all time. I also have a 70s reissue of The Doors' debut album from 1967. The Doors came on scene that year in a big way. And I love artists whose discography starts with like a really defining song. When you put the needle on the first Doors album, the first thing you hear is Break On Through to the Other Side. That's a great way for a band to enter the scene right there. Speaking of new bands entering the scene, The Fifth Dimension. Up and Away. I saw Go Where You Want to Go, and I'm like, this album is up and away, but I missed it in the corner being all psychedelic and creepy. Yeah, Psychedelic Soul was very big by this period. It was just getting started. It would probably hit its peak around 68, 69. Fifth Dimension were a big part of that. Later they would have the biggest hit of the song, Aquarius. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius, which was originally from the Broadway musical Hair, but they did their own version. Not on this album. I actually love The Fifth Dimension. I don't know why. They didn't have original tunes. They pretty much just did recordings of other people's stuff. I also love Linda Ronstadt, as I already mentioned, and she's the same way. She never wrote songs. She just covered other people's songs. And you'd think that would be a huge minus for them, but I don't know. I still love them. And Fifth Dimension I love as well. The Vanilla Fudge. This is also a reissue from the 70s. Vanilla Fudge was a cool band. They didn't last that long. But they had... That's funny. I was just talking about how much I love the song You Keep Me Hanging On. Well, Vanilla Fudge's version might just be even better. Look up right now... Type into the YouTube search bar, Vanilla Fudge, You Keep Me Hanging On. You'll be blown away. It's proto-metal, as far as I'm concerned. And it's so cool. Surrealistic Pillow, which I believe is the debut album by Jefferson Airplane. Did they have anything before this? I really want to say this was their debut, but I'm not sure about that. This was certainly their biggest studio album with the hits White Rabbit, and Somebody to Love on it. One of my favorite centering labels of all time, by the way. The Nipper era, RCA Victor, which in 1967 they changed. So that would have been one of the later albums. It must be an early pressing because 67 was the year they switched away from that awesome Nipper label. We're going back to Motown now. Temptations with a Lot of Soul. 1967. I just did an exhausting 35-minute video on all of the various members that have been in the Temptations. You can check out my channel for that video. This is the Classic 5, though. It's from the Classic 5 era. The era that is most beloved in terms of Temptations history, and that's got the incredible song I Know I'm Losing You, written by Norman Whitfield and Barrett Strong, who was their songwriting partner, or songwriting partnership at the time. This album was rated by Rolling Stone magazine as the #1 album of all time. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. This is the 2012 stereo remaster from the box set, which I have shown in videos previously, which of course means I also have their awesome reissue of Magical Mystery Tour. I used to have earlier Capitol pressings of both of these albums, but I gifted them to my sister at some point. When I got the Beatles box set, I gave away a couple of my duplicates to my sister, and there's some cool stuff in there. You better appreciate it, Carly. No, but the reissues were done so well that they kind of just became, even if they're not original, kind of my definitive versions of these albums for me. This one, they even the inserts they did. So they've got the full booklet, which was originally included as part of the gatefold, but is now just in the sleeve. And for this one, they replicated the original Capitol Rainbow that it would have been issued, because this is the only album on the Beatles box set that it was originally a US only release. The rest of them are all mimic the UK releases. Speaking of inserts, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band had the original inner sleeve, as well as there was this card on the original release had you could cut out stuff, but they've just made it a solid card for this reissue, which is good. It's hard to find original 67 pressings with that card. I feel like there's one other insert. Oh yeah, they've also included this sort of little insert. This is interesting because this is a lyric insert they made with this little cool find out who's on the front cover thing, and they only issued a little mini booklet like that, a new little mini booklet in Sgt. Pepper's. Anyway, I got distracted. I just bought this. I just started getting into Leonard Cohen. I'm going to have to give this a spin in the next couple of days. I haven't heard it yet. I haven't played it. This is, as far as I know, Leonard Cohen's debut album. I think we have a lot of debut albums in here. Yeah. Awesome. So Long Marianne is the only song on this album that I know, at least by looking at the title. So I will report back to you guys on what I thought of that album. One of the most important soundtrack albums of all time, The Graduate, with music by Simon and Garfunkel. Of course, Mrs. Robinson was probably the most famous one from that soundtrack. Ooh, Gray Label Columbia Masterworks. I like that. Masterworks was the Columbia label that dealt mostly with soundtracks and classical. Mamas and Papas Deliver. I am on a major Mamas and Papas kick right now. They are an awesome band, especially because I've been going through all my albums year by year. I've reached that point where I'm listening to a lot of Mamas and Papas, and I ain't going to complain. The Mamas and Papas are fantastic. This is not a sticker, by the way. Contains a single dedicated to the one I love. That's printed on the album. More of the Monkees. I think this is 67. Am I sure? Something tells me this may be 66. Let me know. I think it's 67. More of the Monkees. Never did get into the Monkees. Maybe because they're a TV show band, I never really took them seriously. I'll have to... Again, I haven't listened to that album. I picked it up in a dollar bin. And I figured, why not? I'll have to listen to it and get back to you on what my opinion of the Monkees is, because I cannot accurately form one right now because I don't know almost anything that they did. I know their three biggest hits that were on the radio. I know Daydream Believer and I'm a Believer. Lots of songs about being a believer. Days of Future Past, Moody Blues. I just picked up 4 or 5 of the classic Moody Blues albums, and the Moody Blues are another... Sorry, a moth flew by. I hate those. Never super got into the Moody Blues yet, because they're very prog. I never was a huge prog rock guy, but we'll see, because just in a Value Village, someone had left all of the classic 60s and 70s Moody Blues albums, so I picked them up for $1 each. Whenever I see an opportunity to really build a collection of an artist for cheap, I always take it. That was that. And then, of course, I have Four Top's Greatest Hits. Not the biggest fan of compilations and other Greatest Hits albums, but I certainly have a couple from 1967. This concludes my collection of 1967 albums, which cannot be a complete collection. It's not really a complete history video about rock and roll in 67, because obviously my collection can never truly be complete. Far from it. Actually, I always try to give you guys something to let me know of in the comments. Today, I think it'll be in the comments. Let me know what albums that it's from 1967 that it's a shame I don't have. There's just so many albums that I could have that I don't, I know, but I'm impressed with the way I've been growing my collection. I am slowly reaching the full capacity of my 4x4 IKEA shelf, and my room, I'm finishing cleaning it in the next couple days, and then I think I'm going to go through it on the video, because my room is like full of clutter, but it's because I like to collect things from vinyl to VHS to CDs to rock and roll DVDs to, I have too many things to fit in one room. So that's what I do with my money. But I don't know. I enjoy it. It keeps me going. It's my favorite little hobby to collect rock and roll related items. I don't so much go for the memorabilia, just the stuff that I can listen to and I can watch, like the actual media themselves. This video has gone on long enough. I need to stop rambling. Thanks so much for watching. I like to do one of these year-by-year videos every few weeks as a nice little filler on days that I'm not doing any gigging or traveling or anything, which is what today is. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. For those of you who don't know, I'm also a professional musician myself. I perform across BC right now. I've been touring around BC, but if you live in Alberta and maybe Saskatchewan, I may be coming to your town soon. And the best way to track my progress is through the descriptions of my videos. You can check the description for a full list of all my upcoming tour dates, as well as links to where you can find my music where it's sold or streamed online. Subscribe to this channel if you're enjoying my videos, and ring the notification bell if you do want to be notified every time I upload a new video, which will be tomorrow and every day for the foreseeable future. Like this video if you liked what you saw. Thanks so much for watching. And yeah, I'll catch you again with another new vlog episode tomorrow. Thanks.